One of my favorite childhood books was The Giver by Lois Lowry. I probably read it in like sixth grade or something, and I enjoyed it a lot as a book. The utopian society always enamored me and made me think about what the world within The Giver would actually be like. What was beyond the community? Were there any free societies beyond the grasp of the rules and laws of the community? And what caused everything to happen in the first place? After reading it again, however, I've discovered a new and deep, profound message within the story of The Giver. That is the importance of life, truth, and love, as well as many other notable themes. Of course, this essay will contain major spoilers for The Giver, as well as many dark themes like suicide, euthanasia, and infanticide. The Giver is based within a society that appears utopian. This society is called the community. In the community, everybody acts the same. They dress the same based on age and gender. They all talk similarly. They never lie. They all do the same traditions. They all obey the rules of the community, which I will get more into later. Everyone seems happy. Everyone gets along. All sadness is fleeting and quickly gone. There is no strife. I use the word utopia for a very specific reason. The word utopia was first used in this context by St. Thomas More in his book Libellus Vere Aureus nec minus salutaris quam festivus de optimo re republicae statu deque nova insula utopia, meaning a truly golden little book no less beneficial than entertaining of a republic's best states and the new island Utopia. The book describes a seemingly perfectly organized island society, a nation in which everything is neat and ordered. There is welfare, no private property, perfect city organization, perfect religious tolerance, but a hate towards atheism. Divorce is permitted, but premarital sex is punished severely. The government has administered euthanasia. Everyone gets along. The society is smooth. The ironic thing about this island is its name. Utopia comes from Greek Yoitopos, which means literally nowhere. The island does not exist. Utopia cannot exist. And yet, in The Giver, it does. Jonas is a 12-year-old boy who lives in the community. In the community, the age of 12 years is very significant because that is the age in which children receive their assignments or jobs, which they will have for the rest of their adult life. These assignments are given at the Ceremony of Ages, an event which is essentially a birthday of the whole community, and at the different ages up to 12 are given different things to show their growth into society. For example, the sevens, or those who are 7 years old, are given a front buttoning shirt to show their independence, and the nines are given bicycles, which they will use for transportation for the rest of their lives. At one point, we hear Lily, Jonas' 7-year-old sister, speak about the assignment she wants.
I think new children are so cute, Lily sighed. I hope I get assigned to be a birth mother. Lily, Mother spoke very sharply. Don't say that. There's very little honor in that assignment.
It is almost appalling to hear someone say that for multiple reasons. Primarily the very fact that there's a job called birth mother, like an occupation. Furthermore, it is an occupation on the same level as, say, a gas station employee or a janitor. It's undesirable. It's dishonoring. Reading further, you find out one reason they view the job so distastefully.
3 years, Mother told her firmly. 3 births, and that's all. After that, they are laborers for the rest of their adult lives, until the day that they enter the house of the old. Is that what you want, Lily? 3 lazy years, then hard physical labor, till you are old?
It seems that the community only allows someone to produce 3 children, perhaps for population control, perhaps to keep the babies healthy, perhaps it's simply a rule to keep them from being lazy. Either way, these women are shamed for being lazy, shamed for the 3 years they do not contribute work to the good of the community. This is the first sign of the book pointing to the community's disregard for human life. It is seen as shameful to stop working, even if it is to bring life into the world. It is shameful to be a mother. At the ceremony of the 12s, the council member goes number by number, announcing each child and what job they will receive. Jonas is skipped over, which alarms him and the rest of the community. Confused and scared, Jonas waits till the end, where it is announced that he will become the new receiver of memory. The receiver of memory is a very unique, difficult, rare, and as you will come to realize, important job. The receiver is tasked with receiving memories of the past, memories from before the community. Jonas is given a folder. Inside the folder is a paper that reads,
Jonas, receiver of memory. 1. Go immediately at the end of school hours each day to the annex entrance behind the House of the Old and present yourself to the attendant. 2. Go immediately to your dwelling at the conclusion of training hours each day. 3. From this moment, you are exempt from rules governing rudeness. You may ask in question of any citizen, and you will receive answers. 4. Do not discuss your training with any other member of the community, including parents and elders. 5. From this moment, you are prohibited from dream telling. 6. Except for illness or injury unrelated to your training, do not apply for medication. 7. You are not permitted to apply for release. 8. You may lie.
The next day he goes to the annex building, is led in, and meets the other receiver of memory, an older man whom he does not know. They talk, Jonas asks questions, and then the older gentleman gives him his first memory. The book is a bit ambiguous on how this works, but essentially in some way, vivid relivings of the past can be transmitted as visions or dreams from one person to another. They act, in a way, like a very lucid dream that can be given and shared. The man gives Jonas a memory of a sled going down the hill. Although all these things are foreign to him, he remembers them. He knows that you can pull the ropes to steer, even though he has never seen a sled. He hears the name pop into his head, as if he already knows them, even though he has never been told the name before. Jonas enjoys the ride, and that ends the first day of his training. But before he leaves, he asks the man what to call him, since he is now the receiver. The man responds, "Call me the giver." There's some interesting things to be said about the rules given to him in regards to language and the control of how people speak. Throughout the book, there is a theme of extreme, almost unrealistic politeness. People constantly apologize. Any form of rudeness is chastised, and even things like bragging are forbidden. As the purpose of the receiver becomes more obvious throughout the book, it also becomes more obvious why the rules on rudeness are exempt from Jonas. Further along in his training, Jonas experiences pain. The first painful memory given to Jonas is one of another sled ride, in which, rather than being fun and exciting, it ends in him flying off his sled and breaking a bone. The pain that Jonas experiences is far beyond any pain he has ever felt in his life. He begins to actually envy the others in the community, saying things like they have never felt true pain. As time goes on, the giver must give more and more of these painful memories: war, hunger, abandonment, suffering. One memory saw him in a battlefield and looking into the eyes of a young boy begging for water. Another memory of not having enough to eat. Before becoming the receiver, Jonas was scolded for using the word starving. Who would use the word starving? No one was starving. No one was ever starving. No one will ever starve. When Jonas asks why he must go through these pains, the giver tells him that the receiver is an advisor to the committee and helps those in charge to make good decisions to prevent the suffering and strife of the rest of the community. In short, the receiver must bear the weight of all mankind's suffering, while the rest are in an ignorance, painless bliss. To me, the receiver seems to be a corrupt and abused version of what some would consider a Christ figure, sacrificing his bliss and ignorance so that others can remain in their stupid and untouched state. The giver, however, heart of memories he must give, pities Jonas. So at the end of each training session, he gives him a pleasant memory. Memories of sunsets and meadows, of sailing on a serene and peaceful lake, memories of snow and rain, memories of love. One such memory is that of a family. They are gathered in a warm and joyful room, with a fire in the hearth filled with happy people, sharing gifts with one another.
Who were the old people there? Why were they there? It had puzzled Jonas, seeing them in the room. The older community did not ever leave their special place, the House of the Old, where they were so well cared for and respected. They were called grandparents, the giver answered. Grandparents? It meant parents of the parents, long ago.
Jonas is confused by the idea of grandparents and the idea of an extended family. To him, to the rest of the community, the family is simply those who care for you until you are old enough to live on your own, after which the parents grow old and they are released from the community. The family unit in the community is also strange. In such a society, you would imagine some sort of dissolution of the family in favor of a communal raising of children to prevent the parents from handing heterodox beliefs onto their children. Rather, in the community, you see the family as a basic foundation of society. Each children has one father, one mother, and typically one sibling of the opposite sex. Family raises children, teaches them, and shares their feelings with one another. It would seem that without the family, the society would not function. A world where all people do is centered around sameness and lack of individuality, there is a uniqueness in everyone's childhood. This shows the importance of family for raising someone, the one-on-one required for a fruitful upbringing. Despite this, there is a severe shortage of something important in the families of the community.
I certainly liked the memory, though. I can see why it's your favorite. I couldn't quite get the word for the whole feeling of it. The feeling was so strong in the room. Love, the giver told him. Jonas repeated it. Love. It was a word and concept new to him.
Jonas's family had no love. In fact, the whole community had no love. The only people that loved anyone, we would come to find out, were those suffering the most, the receivers.
Father? Mother? Jonas asked tentatively after the evening meal. I have a question to ask you. What is it, Jonas? His father asked. He made himself say the words, though he felt flushed with embarrassment. He had rehearsed them in his mind all the way home from the annex. Do you love me? There was an awkward silence for a moment, and father gave a little chuckle. Jonas, you of all people, precision of language, please. What do you mean? Jonas asked. Amusement was not at all what he had anticipated. Your father means you used a very generalized word so meaningless that it's become almost obsolete, his mother explained carefully. Jonas stared at them. Meaningless? He had never before felt something as meaningful as the memory. And of course, our community can't function smoothly if people don't use precise language. You could ask, do you enjoy me? The answer is yes, his mother said. Or, his father suggested, do you take pride in my accomplishments? And the answer is wholeheartedly yes. Do you understand why it's inappropriate to use a word like love? His mother asked. Jonas nodded. Yes, thank you, I do, he replied slowly. It was his first lie to his parents.
This is one of those moments in a book where you just have to set it down and stare at the ceiling for 10 minutes before you continue. The whole time up to this moment, you assume that his family cared for him beyond their duty to the community. They scold him when he does wrong, they treat him when he needs help. They teach him, they raise him, they are proud of him. But they do not love him. Love is absent from the agenda of the community. Love is obsolete and meaningless. Love is foreign. At this point in the book, you begin to really question the morality of anyone else. And it only gets worse. Jonas's training continues and he grows to resent the community. At one point he asks the giver what happened to the previous receiver of memory. When Jonas was first made receiver of memory, the committee member mentioned a previous failure. This alludes to the fact that there was a previous receiver of memory who failed in some way. The giver tells him about Rosemary. Rosemary was selected to be the receiver of memory years before Jonas was born. The giver grew to love and care for her, and only gave her pleasant memories at the beginning of her training. After procrastinating for a long time, he finally decided it was time. He gave her a memory of a child being abandoned by her mother. The giver said that this memory changed Rosemary. She left the annex that day, never came back. She went immediately and applied for release. was released from the community. Release. Release is this word you hear over and over again. The old of the community have a ceremony of release. When twins are born, the lighter of the two is released. Jonas's father talks about how he is scheduled to release a baby that day. Receivers are not permitted to apply for release. Release is honorable. Release is almost sacred. Yet it is clear that the average citizen in the community does not know what release truly is. Jonas asks the giver what release is. The giver speaks into a speaker, asking the attendant on the other end to pull up the footage of the release of an infant that morning. The screen turns on, and Jonas watches in horror as his father injects a newborn infant with some syringe, and it squirms, twitches, and then ceases to move, eyes half open. And Jonas's father, casual and calm, talking to the infant in a light and cheery voice as if it hears him, places the lifeless corpse into a box, puts the box into what appears to be a garbage chute.
He killed it! My father killed it! Jonas said to himself, stunned at what he was realizing. He continued to stare at the screen numbly.
You can imagine the pain and disgust in Jonas's heart, this realization. The realization that something so normal and casual as release, the same horror that he had experienced in many of his dreadful memories. You can imagine the hatred he might feel towards his father. But his father does not know. His father does not understand, nor do the nurturers, nor do the old of the community, nor does anyone else. In fact, not even the committee, those who chastise and run the community, understand release and death in the same way that the giver and Jonas do. Death is simply put out of the minds of those who live in this society. To those who euthanize babies, they are just ending an inconvenient life. I say just ending an inconvenient life because that is the best way I can describe the community's attitude toward the value of human life. The value of your life is based on two things: usefulness now and usefulness in the past. First, if you are inconvenience, such as a malnourished child or someone who could cause strife, or someone with too much individuality, you may be released. Your existence could disrupt the peace of the community. The giver even said that those with red hair are a pain on the community's geneticists because it messes with the sameness of the society. On past usefulness, those who work hard during their adult lives are given a time of leisure during their old age. But the moment they have been repaid, they are released. The community will not stand for a waste of resources. In this, there is no value of human life. It is conditional if you deserve to live or not, and that condition is your usefulness. Imagine a world where all those who do not look like you, all those who are disabled, all those who aren't hard workers, and anyone else the government finds inconvenient, all those people are euthanized. This image is reminiscent of a particular historical regime. Particularly, Nazi Germany is reflected in the community in many ways. Of course, there is the mass euthanization, an obvious callback to the genocidal horrors of Hitler. However, there is also book burnings. Throughout the time in which Nazis ruled Germany, they went through great efforts to eliminate information, specifically information that could change the opinions of their supporters. According to a Wikipedia article, this included books by Jewish, half-Jewish, communist, socialist, anarchist, liberal, pacifist, and sexologist authors, among others. In The Giver, one of the things Jonas is enamored by is the amount of books in the annex building, even saying that the only books he had ever known were those on the shelf in his home. This lack of books, similar to the Nazis' attempts to destroy books, is to limit the information going to the people without the knowledge of the government. This prevents any form of individuality stemming from research, which is necessary to the goal of the community. It also prevents any understanding of death.
I won't go home. You can't make me. Jonas sobbed and shouted and pounded the bed with his fists. Sit up, Jonas, the giver told him firmly. Jonas obeyed him. Weeping, shuddering, he sat at the edge of the bed. He would not look at the giver.
Jonas here is horrified at the killing he had just witnessed his father carry out. He does not want to go home and look his father in the eyes, knowing how many innocent children he has killed. Even though the giver reminds him that his father does not know or understand death, it's clear Jonas can't help but relate his father to those evils he experienced and all those horrible memories. So the giver and the receiver make a plan. Eventually, Jonas returns home, and he's horrified to learn that Gabriel, an infant his family had been caring for several months, failed the test, was rescheduled for release next morning. The book cuts forward in time. Jonas crossed the river out of the community. With him, food, a bicycle, and Gabriel. Jonas leaves, bikes many miles down endless roads by night, and hides from search parties in plains by day. After some time, Jonas and Gabriel reach narrower roads. The weather grows rough, and the wilderness grows around them. The food supply diminishes. When in a snowstorm, Jonas gives Gabriel those last memories of warmth, living rooms, and sunny beaches. When they have no food, he gives the baby his memories of banquets and feasts. This leaves Jonas carrying the weight of all those horrible, wretched memories. They starve, though they had been told they never starve. They suffer, though they had been told they wouldn't suffer. All of this out of love. Love that Gabriel could have a chance to live, really live, and a chance to know the truth. All of the suffering for love. The community offers something no other place can. It offers an escape from all pain, all strife, all suffering, all hunger, all disorder, all disgust, all trials, and all discomfort. The community is Utopia. It is nowhere. It does not exist. And it cannot exist. Because as a price for all these things we as a species so desperately desire, it trades life, truth, and love. It cannot exist because these three things are valuable to us above all others. When you take them away, it is no longer a community, but a utopia. We are no longer man, but a shadow of man. There are many more things I regret that I can't speak of more, like the family, the sexuality, and the community. The fact that the receivers are the only people who can see color, something I completely disregarded in this essay. Unfortunately, after rereading The Giver to write this essay, I couldn't help but completely change the entire narrative of what I was originally going to write. Even though I spoiled the main storyline of the novel, I seriously recommend it. It's a short read and there's a lot to be found in there. Thank you for listening.